Good afternoon, my name is Tumi Tladi and welcome to my YouTube channel. So let's get down to business, shall we? Okay, I have Visual Studio. Apologies for my voice because I have new neighbors moving in right now. They might be a bit noisy, but I also try to keep it lower, but nevertheless I need to do my work. So I was just checking something regarding Xamarin on my Visual Studio 2019 on my computer, but I have an update regarding this new direction that I intend to take. But before I talk about that, if this video, it is a first video of mine that you're currently watching, I'm gonna add you to watch my other previous videos. There you will find lots of videos that could be helpful, but also to understand how I get to structure this video and then how I get to do what I get to do, because I'm going to talk about dependency injection, but in Xamarin. So currently I'm in the midst of a Xamarin series. I just completed video number 97. I believe this video, it's video number 98, but the videos that I'm making for Xamarin are on the laptop. So that's what I use to record, but now I need to record this one because the development work is on my main computer. So dependency injection in Xamarin.Forms, because my system really needs dependency injection. It's one of the things I've been talking about that I need to do. So before we go any further, let's go to Git Changes Tab. Now, Git Changes Tab is part of a version control series. There's one video where we talked about this tab. We talked about these symbols. These Git symbols, what do they mean? So there's a lot of things I did to introduce a topic of version control. And I want to get your thoughts, around this topic. I haven't yet tested this theory, but let's start. So I'm going to go to Solution Explorer. So we are on a shared project. And then the very first thing that I had to add was this class called startup class. So there's the class that I added. Okay, so this class has to be static class. That's a critical thing. And then I have this property called the service provider of type iServiceProvider. If you look at this interface, it says it defines a mechanism for retrieving a service object that is an object that provides custom supports to other objects, right? So it's a static property. And then I have a static method called init, where we initialize this guy, right? It's going to return the same iServiceProvider. Now, I do a couple of things here. So this var service provider is going to be of service collection. Now, service collection is something that comes from this namespace. Speaking of the namespace, I went ahead and added some Nuget packages, 2 of them. So let's trace them. There we go. Microsoft.extensions.dependency injection version 502, and then Microsoft.extensions.dependency injection.abstraction version 5.0.0. So these are 2 Nuget packages I had to bring in. Okay, so hence out of this namespace I have access to service collection. And then what I do there, I'm saying configure services. We'll talk about this method, what it is, and then we also configure the view models, and then finally we build service provider. Now what it does, it creates a Microsoft it creates a service provider containing services from the provided iService collection, right? Cool. And then what we do is that we're going to use that to pass into a service provider, and we're going to return it. So this is the startup. So it has to live globally. The second class I added was this DI container. So this is the class that I had to add. Also, it's a static class, DI container. So what it does basically is that I have 2 extension methods. So the very first method is that I configure the services, and then the second one I configure the view models. So why do I have these 2 classes? That's a good question. But let's talk about what I currently have. So public static is going to return iService collection, and the name of the method we know using the this keyword that this is a extension method. It takes in iService collection, right? The services. And then what I do with those services, I have access to this add singleton. So what it does is it adds a singleton service of the type specified in version update service with an implementation type specified in version update service to the specified iService collection. Right, so we'll talk about this in a second. And then what I do, I just return those services. Then finally, I have this extension method for configuring the view models. In fact, this should be configure view models, not, but I want you to see something, but I'll do it. It also takes in iService collection view models, right? So what I do add transient. Okay, it adds a transient service of the type specified in version updates view model to the specified collection, iService collection. Okay, so now because startup there's no any issue, but the moment I rectify the typo here to say configure view models, notice what it does here. There we go. So it shows us a red squiggles because then we have to fix this guy. So this is how we chain them together. So basically what I'm doing is I'm keeping this guy short and simple. I can register configure those services here, and I also need to configure those view models, but it's going to become too much. Okay, so instead that's what we use as a DI container to say this is where I'm going to add a lot of singletons. In this case, I only added the version updates because it's easier to test with it. So what I did, I went ahead to services. Inside the startup folder, I introduced this folder called the version update. And then that's when I added this version update service and then version update service. Now, where do they come from? They come from this version update service, right? So this is how it used to be previously. It's an old implementation, right? So this is what needs to have dependency injected. You should know that one of the things I intend to fix is this HTTP client object, but we'll talk about that some other time. I'll make a follow-up video on that topic. So what do I need to have an interface and its implementation? I just need to know the return type. It's going to return this version update model. That's the name of the method. So let's go to version update service. You see, there's the return type, and then there's the name of the method. So that's what we have, version update service, and the implementation. Therefore, I just take the body of what was in the previous implementation exactly as it is, which is this guy. There we go. So there's an old one. I'm gonna close it, and this is a new way of doing it. And I'm also gonna be refactoring certain things, especially this guy. Cool. So that's what I have, a version updated service. Now, why are we there? Because we are done with this guy, right? We are done with this guy. We are done with this extension method. The second extension method, because it utilizes this version update service. So let's go to version update view model. So what I did with the global variables, wait, okay, no, it's not here. Okay, but let's open that. Let me see. We might have done a mistake. We might have. Let's go back to the view model. So the view model in question is this version update, but if you look at this view model, it doesn't make use of the service. What makes use of the service is this startup screen view model, and I'll explain why. But this guy somehow is being registered somewhere on the DI container, and this is wrong. So I have to substitute this startup screen view model. This is what should go there. So this is the correct object that I am looking for. Let's give it a couple of seconds. Oh, by the way, I'm back to my computer, so it's gonna be a bit slowish, but not to worry. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. And then we need to remove this guy because we won't need it. So why such confusion? Because this version updates view model doesn't talk to any service whatsoever. If you look at the call, it doesn't go to the service whatsoever. It doesn't. Does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But the guy that talks to a service all the way to the web API is this startup screen view model. So basically what I had to do is that I had to substitute, but I'll show with git diff what was here before. Okay, so now there's a new way of doing it. Private read only I version update service. Okay, and I use a constructor to inject it. There's a constructor, and then that's how I get to inject it, right? And then this guy, he's being utilized here. See, get one async. So there's a new way of doing it. It's a new way of doing it, but we'll talk about this when we do a video on setup screen. But just want to show that this is what we need to do. Okay, so we know that it's been wired up here. Now, a very interesting, okay, let me finish off the startup. Now, a startup needs to be registered somewhere. It needs to be called somewhere, right? So the init. So we're gonna go to now app.xaml, but the code behind, right? As you can see, it's been modified. So what we need to do, line number 21, which we just call startup.init. It will initialize this whole system of dependency injection. That's the only thing I need to do. Okay, so I want to talk about something. We are done with this guy. I want to talk about this part. Wait, first, why do I need this? Let's go back. If we were initializing, why do I need this? Well, now let me remove it. It's not needed. And I see that we are still retaining this guy. I don't know why we are retaining it, but we'll see. Okay. Now, another thing that's interesting, let's go to the views, content, pages, and let's go to, I don't want to go to version updates, but instead I want to go to startup. Okay, but let's do this. Let's look with startup screen view model, right? Why are we going to the service? So we just learned based on this show info method that's gonna go to get one async, and then it's gonna inject that data to this version update model, and this version update model, here it is. Oh, and we are using it to store values on the shared preferences. Okay, makes sense. Because what I wanted to show was this startup screen page. It doesn't know anything about the version updates. The only thing it knows it's having to redirect. Okay, in case that this page is not gonna wake up, I'm done with the video, but I just want to show how I'm gonna kick off this dependency injection. And I want to mention something also. Okay, why do we have, oh yes, because if we have to bind, unfortunately I can't bind. That's what I want to show. I can't bind like this anymore. Look at it. It says it's not usable as an object element because it is not public or does not define public parameterless constructor type converter. Yes. So apparently it seems like we cannot do this anymore. So if I do comment it out, we can't do this anymore. But what we need to do is via code behind. After we have initialized the component, I'm gonna say binding context. Right, and then let's try to say get service. I believe get service, it comes from one of the new packages. Okay. What about get type? Okay, but just know that a way to do that, it's different, but I need to do something here. I just need to investigate, but I need to do something here. But from line number 17, it won't work like this, as we just saw. So there's not, but I'm gonna continue to do a research. So this is what I want to do. I'm gonna continue to build it, but this is how I'm changing this guy to be dependency injectable. And then obviously I'm gonna have to get rid of this. Where is it? View models, startup, get rid of this guy. Not view models, sorry. I can't get rid of the view model, but the services, because we won't need this guy anymore. So I'm gonna group them inside their own folder. So let's remove that. Why did I choose this approach of dependency injection like the container? Why is so critical? It's critical for consistency as far as my .NET Core MVC is concerned, where I have startup class, and on the startup class I configure certain things, like you see this iService collection. Remember this guy? Yes, see where it comes from. And from here, obviously everything is wired up inside the installers, but DB installer, and this is how it's supposed to be. iService collection, services, and out of that service I get access to at scoped or transient or singleton. So this is one of the benefits. It keeps it consistent on how we use that in .NET Core. So this is how we get to use it in mobile applications such as Xamarin.Forms. And then for .NET MAUI, it's gonna be pretty much easy and simple. So stay tuned for that. I intend to do a lot of things with this in mind. Wait, why am I changing this guy now? Okay, but before I create a commit, I need to test this guy. I'm not gonna test it now. I need to wait for a different device to use to test this guy, but I'm not gonna do it now. But this is what I want to show, and I'll continue to work on it until it becomes perfect. With that being said, please watch my other previous videos, particularly for this series on Xamarin. It's good stuff. Good stuff. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing and click on the notification bell to be notified whenever I drop the videos, because right now I'm about to go and record on the laptop. More content, more juicy stuff. With that being said, thank you very much. Out.